I'm Elijah Carter. I'm a quiet guy, an engineer by trade, a car enthusiast by passion. When I bought my house last spring, it wasn't just about the extra bedroom or the bigger backyard. It was about the garage. A clean, spacious two-car haven, where I could finally house my project car, a sleek black BMW M4. It wasn't just any car. It was a labor of love. I'd been restoring it piece by piece for years, scouring online auctions for rare parts, learning the intricacies of its engine, and spending countless hours polishing its obsidian finish until it gleamed like liquid night. It sat in my garage like a work of art, a testament to patience, expertise, and a deep appreciation for automotive engineering. Polished, tuned, perfect. The only people I ever let near it were my brother Marcus, who shared my love for cars, and my mechanic, Javier, a wizard with engines who understood the language of machinery better than anyone I knew. The M4 was my sanctuary, my escape, my pride and joy. I'd spend hours in the garage, losing myself in the hum of the engine. The smell of oil and gasoline, the satisfying click of a perfectly tightened bolt. The neighborhood was generally peaceful. A suburban enclave of neatly manicured lawns and cookie-cutter houses. Most of the residents seemed to keep to themselves, which was perfect for an introvert like me. I was happy to wave hello, exchange pleasantries, but I wasn't looking for deep friendships or neighborhood potlucks. My focus was on my car and my work in maintaining the quiet solitude I cherished. And then came Karen. She lived across the street, and from the moment I saw her, I knew there was going to be trouble. Middle-aged, with that sharp, asymmetrical bob haircut that seemed to be the official uniform of suburban busybodies. She was always decked out in gym clothes, but I never once saw her going to the gym. She was the self-appointed HOA watchdog, the self-proclaimed guardian of neighborhood standards. Armed with her ubiquitous clipboard, a headset permanently attached to her ear, and a bottomless thirst for control, she patrolled the streets like a self-important general surveying her troops. From the first day I moved in, she acted like the whole block was her personal kingdom, and I apparently was a subject in need of her constant supervision. At first, it was little things, annoyances that I could easily brush off as the quirks of a slightly overzealous neighbor. A passive-aggressive note stuck to my trash can, complaining that I'd put them out too early apparently. Anything more than 5 minutes before the scheduled pickup time was a grave offense. A curt reminder that I wasn't allowed to have a grill on my porch, citing a vaguely worded bylaw that I was certain she'd misinterpreted. But the minor infractions quickly escalated when she caught a glimpse of my BMW during one of my Sunday tune dash-ups. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and I was under the hood of my M4, adjusting the timing belt. I had the garage door open to let in some air, and that's when she saw it. That's when the storm began brewing. She practically screeched to a halt in her oversized SUV, reversing awkwardly into her own driveway before marching across the street with that determined look on her face that could curdle milk. She cornered me in my own driveway, her eyes narrowed, her voice dripping with disapproval. "That kind of car isn't appropriate for this neighborhood," she pronounced, as if she were delivering a royal decree. Claimed it didn't fit the aesthetic. It was too loud, too flashy, too me. She actually had the audacity to tell me to park it somewhere else, maybe down the street or in a storage facility, or even, and I quote, consider selling it to someone who appreciates that sort of thing. I laughed it off, chalking it up to another bizarre encounter with the neighborhood eccentric. I politely told her that the car was legally registered, insured, and parked on my own property, and that I had no intention of moving it. I turned back to my engine, hoping she would take the hint and leave me alone. But Karen was like a persistent mosquito buzzing around, refusing to be swatted away. Little did I know, this initial confrontation was just the opening salvo in a battle that would soon escalate beyond anything I could have imagined. I thought I'd made it clear that her opinions about my car were unwelcome, but Karen was not easily deterred. The following week, I caught her trying to open my garage. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was inside working on a new sound system for the M4. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure lurking near my garage door, I paused. The music peered through the window, and my blood ran cold. It was Karen. She was standing right in front of the keypad. Her brow furrowed in concentration, her fingers dancing over the buttons like she was trying to guess the code. She had gloves on, strange for a perfectly sunny day. Poised on the keypad, the other held a dog leash, but there was no dog attached to it. The leash was dragging on the ground, the clip empty. Wait, that was Mrs. Henderson's poodle yesterday. She always walks the dog at 10 a.m. She wasn't walking her own dog. She didn't even own one. She was casing my house, and my stomach clenched with a mixture of anger and disbelief. This wasn't just nosiness. This was a deliberate act of intrusion, a violation of my privacy, potential threat to my safety. I cautiously opened my front door and stepped outside, trying to remain calm. My voice was measured, even a stark contrast to the rage that was simmering beneath the surface. "Karen," I said, "what are you doing?" She jumped, startled, her eyes wide with panic. She stammered, "Oh, Elijah. I didn't see you there." The dog leash whipped with her. "I was just admiring your landscaping." I gestured towards the barren patch of dirt that I'd been meaning to turn into a flower bed. "My landscaping?" I raised an eyebrow. "With gloves on, trying to open my garage?" She flustered. "These are gardening gloves. I always wear them when I'm gardening. And I wasn't trying to open your garage. I was just stretching." My back gets so stiff. The lie was so transparent, so ludicrous, that it was almost comical. But there was nothing funny about what she was doing. "Karen, get off my property," I said firmly, my voice leaving no room for argument, "and don't come near my garage again." And that's when she lost it. The carefully constructed facade of suburban civility crumbled, revealing the true, unhinged Karen underneath. She started screaming, her voice shrill and piercing, at a volume that could shatter glass. About how the garage was common area, it wasn't. Said the HOA had emergency rights. To access any homeowner's property, they didn't. And that she, as a responsible member of the community, was inspecting my BMW because it looked like it had illegal modifications that were probably lowering property values. She even tried to quote HOA bylaws, spouting off regulations that were completely fabricated, making up rules on the spot to justify her bizarre behavior. By now, several neighbors had emerged from their houses, drawn by the commotion. They stood on their lawns, watching the spectacle unfold with a mixture of curiosity and concern. I ignored them, focusing on Karen, trying to de-escalate the situation. "Karen," I said, my voice calm but firm, "you are trespassing on my property. You are harassing me. You are making completely false accusations. I'm going to ask you one more time. Leave. Again, if you come near my garage again, I'm filing a trespassing report with the police." That seemed to finally get through to her. At least temporarily. She stormed off, her face flushed with anger, muttering something about illegally modified vehicles and disrespectful neighbors. I watched her go, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to back down. She was relentless, vindictive, and clearly unhinged. I just didn't know how far she was willing to go. 5 minutes later, I heard sirens. My heart sank. I knew exactly who had called them. Karen had called 911. The thought was both infuriating and absurd. What could she possibly tell the police that would warrant an emergency response? I walked back inside, shaking my head, trying to convince myself that it was just a prank, a desperate attempt to intimidate me. But deep down, I knew Karen was capable of anything. I went to my security system, reviewing the footage of our previous encounter. I saw her tiptoeing to the keypad, her gloved hands searching for the code. I saw the hysteria start to build. In her eyes, when I approached, I saw her storm off in a huff. It was all there, clear as crystal. I felt a surge of relief knowing that I had evidence to defend myself against whatever lies she was about to spin. But the relief was short-lived. A few minutes later, I heard the unmistakable sound of police sirens growing louder as they approached my house. 3 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing, tires screeching on the asphalt. The scene looked like something out of a movie. Neighbors, who had retreated to their homes, began peeking out of their windows. Some even dared to step back into their yards, brandishing their phone cameras. The quiet suburban street had transformed into a stage for a bizarre drama, with Karen as the director and me as the unsuspecting star. An officer approached my front door, his face impassive, his hand resting on his holster. I opened the door before he could knock, wanting to control the narrative from the start. "Officer," I said, "I know why you're here. My neighbor across the street, Karen, has made a false report. She's been harassing me for weeks, and now she's trying to get me in trouble with the police." The officer listened patiently, his eyes scanning my face, my demeanor. He asked me to step outside, away from the door, so he could speak to me privately. He explained that they had received a call from a woman claiming that I was hiding stolen vehicles in my garage, that she had reason to believe I was running a chop shop, that she was terrified and needed protection. I couldn't believe it. The audacity of her lies was staggering. I explained to the officer that I was an engineer, that I owned a single car, a restored BMW M4, that was legally registered and insured. I told him about Karen's obsession with my car, her attempts to access my garage, her fabricated HOA violations. I offered to show him the security footage to prove that I was telling the truth. The officer nodded, his expression unreadable. "Sir," he said, "we have to investigate the claim. Would you mind if we took a look inside your garage?" I hesitated for a moment. I didn't like the idea of strangers invading my personal space, especially not under these circumstances. But I knew that refusing would only make me look guilty, would play right into Karen's narrative. Besides, I had nothing to hide.
"Sure,"
I said, "I'll open it myself." Because unlike Karen, I don't have anything to hide. I walked over to the garage door, punched in the code, and watched as the door slowly rolled up, revealing the contents of my sanctuary to the world. There it was, my legally registered BMW, gleaming under the afternoon sun, and meticulously organized. Tools arranged on shelves like a surgeon's instruments. My collection of license plates, a hobby I'd picked up a few years ago, and the massive whiteboard covered in diagrams, calculations, and notes on the electrical wiring for a fuel efficiency modification I was working on. Nothing illegal, nothing suspicious, it's just nerd stuff. The officers looked confused, their eyes darting around the garage, searching for the evidence of criminal activity that Karen had so confidently described. Karen, standing off to the side with her arms crossed, kept insisting that I was tricking them, that I had hidden the stolen car somewhere else, that I was a master manipulator who was somehow fooling the police. Her voice grew louder, more frantic, her accusations more outlandish. The officers ignored her, focusing on their investigation. One of them walked over to me and quietly asked if I'd be comfortable showing him my security footage. I smiled. "Absolutely," I said. "I think you'll find it quite illuminating because I had everything on camera." Every single detail of Karen's bizarre behavior was captured in crystal clear high definition. Her trying the keypad, her clumsy attempts to guess the code, her screaming about her garage and her fabricated HOA authority, her pacing back and forth, muttering threats under her breath, her calling 911, faking tears, and exaggerating the situation to the dispatcher. The officers watched the video, their expressions growing increasingly grim. They saw Karen's lies unravel before their eyes, her carefully constructed narrative collapsing under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The officer took us to his unit and began going over the video and our statements. I saw Karen flail and deny everything, but now she knew she was caught. The look on her face was priceless. 10 minutes later, 2 more official vehicles pulled up. This time, they were unmarked, and the occupants were wearing plain clothes, not police uniforms. They were from the county, and it became clear that this extended beyond a simple neighborhood dispute. One of the officers from the squad, Carr, turns to Karen and asks, his voice flat and professional, "Ma'am, would you like to revise your statement?" She tried to pivot, to salvage what was left of her credibility. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, a terrible mistake. She said she had heat exhaustion and was confused and had tripped into my driveway, accidentally pressing the buttons on my garage door. She even tried to apologize, her voice trembling, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. But it was too late. The damage was done. The truth was out. Karen's lies were exposed. What they found out from dispatch, and what I had absolutely no idea of, was that this wasn't her first rodeo. She'd pulled the same stunt in her last neighborhood, making false reports against several of her neighbors, often targeting people of color. She was already on thin ice with the HOA board for repeatedly harassing homeowners, violating their privacy, and disrupting the peace of the community. Her pattern of behavior was well documented. The authorities were starting to take notice. The county investigators started questioning Karen, digging into her past, exposing her history of harassment and false accusations. She went quiet. Real fast, her energy dissipated, her bravado gone.
Oh.
She knew she had crossed a line. The officers didn't arrest her, at least, not that day. But they did escort her back to her house, warning her to avoid any contact with me, to stay away from my property, and to cease and desist from her harassment immediately. They made it clear that any further attempts to interfere with my life would result in serious legal consequences. As they led her away, I saw the looks of disgust and disapproval on the faces of my neighbors, the people she had tried so hard to control, the community she had tried to manipulate. The tide had turned. The HOA got wind of the security footage, and they were furious. They held an emergency meeting, reviewed the evidence, and voted unanimously to remove Karen from the board. Her reign of terror was officially over. But the story didn't end there. The county investigators continued their investigation, interviewing Karen's former neighbors, gathering evidence of her past misconduct. They were building a case against her, a case that could potentially lead to charges of harassment, filing false police reports, and even hate crimes. I wasn't privy to the details of the investigation, but I knew that Karen was in serious trouble. And then came the kicker. 2 weeks later, a bright, shiny, for sale sign popped up on her lawn. It was like a beacon of hope, a symbol of freedom, a promise of peace. I never found out if she sold willingly, or if the neighborhood finally had enough of her and pressured her to leave. Perhaps the HOA threatened legal action, or maybe she simply realized that she had burned too many bridges, that she could no longer live in a community that despised her. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. Karen was leaving. The news spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. My neighbors cheered. They popped champagne. Some even threw a small block party to celebrate her departure. The atmosphere was jubilant, as if a dark cloud had finally lifted from our community. People who had previously been afraid to speak out against Karen now openly expressed their relief and gratitude. They thanked me for standing up to her, for exposing her lies, for bringing her reign of terror to an end. I became something of a local hero, a symbol of resistance against the forces of suburban oppression. It was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. I'm a quiet guy, not used to being the center of attention. But it felt good to know that I had made a difference. That I had helped to create a more peaceful and inclusive community. The weeks that followed were blissfully uneventful. The neighborhood returned to its normal state of quiet tranquility. The HOA elected a new board, one that was committed to fairness, transparency, and inclusivity. My neighbors started organizing community events, potlucks, and block parties, fostering a sense of camaraderie and connection that had been sorely lacking under Karen's reign. I even started to get to know some of my neighbors, discovering that they were actually quite friendly and welcoming people. I still preferred my solitude, but I appreciated the sense of community that was slowly developing around me. And my BMW? It was still here, purring contentedly in my garage, shining under the sun. A symbol of my freedom, my passion, my resilience. I even started taking it out for drives, enjoying the open road, feeling the wind in my hair. I no longer felt the need to hide it, to keep it locked away for fear of Karen's judgment. I knew that my neighbors appreciated it, not for its monetary value, but for its beauty, its craftsmanship, and the passion that I poured into its restoration. I even let some of them take a peek inside the garage, sharing my love for cars with a community that had finally embraced me. Karen, she's just a bad memory. A cautionary tale. A reminder that even in the most seemingly idyllic communities, there are forces of negativity and oppression that must be challenged. I haven't seen her since she moved, and I honestly don't miss her. I heard rumors that she moved to another state, Another suburban enclave where she's probably trying to establish her reign of terror all over again. But I don't worry about her anymore. I know that wherever she goes, she'll eventually meet her match. Someone who will stand up to her, expose her lies, and bring her down. The experience with Karen taught me a lot about myself, about my community, and about the importance of standing up for what's right. It taught me that even a quiet guy like me can make a difference, that even a single voice can be heard above the din of hatred and oppression. It also taught me the value of security cameras. But most importantly, it taught me that a purring black BMW can be a powerful symbol of freedom, of resilience, and of the unwavering pursuit of passion. It was more than just a car. It was a statement that said, I am here. I belong. Here, and I will not be bullied or silenced. And that, in the end, is the legacy of my Black Beauty. The car that sparked a revolution in my quiet suburban neighborhood. A lasting reminder that sometimes all it takes is a little bit of automotive passion to bring down a Karen.